the dutiful child, a haven of love, or a gilded cage of lost independence? Arthur's unspoken question hangs in the air, a question many face. For some, the first thought turns to family, to those they raised. But is that always the sanctuary one hopes for? Let's step into Linda's story. Linda, 78, packed her life into boxes, her heart a mix of gratitude and a chilling fear. Would moving in with her daughter mean losing herself? After a recent fall, the decision to live with her grown, loving daughter seemed the most natural step. The initial days were filled with her daughter's warm welcome. Practical help with groceries was always at hand. Rides to appointments were readily available, and the sharp pangs of long stretches of loneliness began to dull. Linda breathed a sigh of relief, yet a quiet battle waged within her, the fear of becoming a burden. A guest in someone else's home, fought against the comfort of familial care. Soon, the subtle undercurrents of this new life began to surface. Her daughter's actions, though well-intentioned, started to feel overbearing. Routines Linda had cherished for years were casually changed. Her input on small household matters, the timing of meals, the arrangement of the living room, often brushed aside with a gentle, "Don't worry about it, Mom." Linda felt herself shrinking, her vibrant personality dimming. "I felt less like a parent," she might recall in a quiet moment, "and more like a shadow, a polite guest in a house that wasn't truly mine." The precious sense of independence she had guarded so fiercely seemed to be slipping away. She almost retreated entirely into a shell of quiet compliance, the unspoken words heavy on her tongue. But then, her daughter, perceptive and kind, noticed Linda's withdrawal, the dimming of her usual spark. She initiated a heartfelt conversation, expressing her love and admitting, with a touch of remorse, that she had perhaps assumed too much, inadvertently overlooking Linda's need for autonomy. The turning point came with small, yet profoundly significant gestures. Her daughter began asking Linda where she wanted the new armchair placed, what time she preferred her evening tea, and then she pressed a house key into Linda's palm. "That key," Linda would later say, her voice thick with emotion, "it wasn't just a piece of metal, it was my dignity handed back to me." This simple act, this clear communication, marked a pivotal shift. It wasn't just about blood ties. It was about achieving a delicate balance, founded on mutual respect and understanding. Linda began to feel not just safe, but truly seen, her sense of self blossoming anew. Linda found her balance, a testament to the power of communication and respect within an adult-child relationship. But what if the parent-child dynamic, however loving, simply isn't the right chemistry for this delicate dance of shared living? For some, an entirely different bond holds the key to late-life contentment, a bond forged not in caregiving, but in decades of shared laughter and tears. Echoes of the past. Can sibling rivalry evolve into a sanctuary of shared history? Linda found her balance, a testament to the power of communication and respect within an adult-child relationship. But what if the parent-child dynamic, however loving, simply isn't the right chemistry for this delicate dance of shared living? For some, an entirely different bond holds the key to late-life contentment, a bond forged not in caregiving, but in decades of shared laughter and tears. Sisters Ruth, 80, and Elaine, 83, faced widowhood alone, the silence in their respective homes growing heavier each day. Their solution, a decision that baffled some friends and even raised a few eyebrows among their extended family, to bicker over the thermostat together, just like they did in their 20s. This seemingly unconventional choice, however, saved them both from a creeping loneliness. After outliving their spouses, they decided to reunite, merging their lives once more. The initial days of moving in were a whirlwind of rediscovered old habits and the unique comfort that comes from living with someone who remembers your parents, your first loves, the exact same cultural references from bygone eras. "There's no need to explain myself," Ruth often mused, a sense of emotional ease settling over her. Elaine just knows. This mutual understanding, built on a lifetime of shared history, was a balm. Of course, living together again also meant that old sibling dynamics, those familiar patterns of interaction, began to resurface. These weren't deep, damaging conflicts. but rather the small, persistent irritations inherent in any shared living situation. The ongoing debate about the thermostat setting, differing preferences for television channels, or who used the last of the milk. One afternoon, a moment of frustration over something trivial, Elaine misplacing Ruth's favorite gardening gloves, led to a sharp exchange and a subsequent tense silence that filled their cozy living room. Maybe this was a mistake, Elaine found herself thinking, the familiar ache of loneliness suddenly feeling almost preferable to this unexpected friction. The air was thick with unspoken doubts. Later that evening, Ruth found Elaine quietly sitting by the window, an old, dog-eared family photo album open on her lap, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. They started talking, not about the misplaced gloves or the thermostat, but about a cherished shared memory from their childhood. A moment of profound joy, quickly followed by a story of a struggle they had faced and overcome together. The silly argument from earlier simply dissolved, losing all its power in the face of their deep, unbreakable bond. "We bicker over silly things, that's true," Ruth affirmed with a soft smile, her gaze meeting Elaine's. "But at the end of the day, no one else knows me like she does." This profound sense of companionship, of being truly emotionally known by another human being, was paramount. It wasn't just about practical help. It was about reducing the quiet ache of being unseen or misunderstood, a feeling of belonging that no amount of money could buy. For Ruth and Elaine, their shared history was their anchor, a rich tapestry of memories that provided unparalleled emotional ease. But what happens when such deep-rooted family connections aren't an option, or when the desired connection is one of community and companionship without the inherent complexities of kinship? Imagine finding that vital spark, that sense of belonging, not in the echoes of the past, but in the fresh promise of a brand new friendship. The roommate revolution, strangers to friends, sharing more than just rent. For Ruth and Elaine, their shared history was their anchor, a rich tapestry of memories that provided unparalleled emotional ease. But what happens when such deep-rooted family connections aren't an option, or when the desired connection is one of community and companionship without the inherent complexities of kinship? Imagine finding that vital spark, that sense of belonging, not in the echoes of the past, but in the fresh promise of a brand new friendship. Consider Marvin and George. They first crossed paths at a local community center, two widowers navigating the solitary waters of life after loss, each recently rattled by minor health scares. Their solution to the encroaching quiet? A rather radical idea for their generation. They decided to become roommates. "It's not complicated," Marvin, ever the pragmatist, insisted with a shrug. "It's just comfortable." But could it truly be that simple, two near strangers forging a new kind of home in their later years? This arrangement reflects a growing trend among older adults, choosing to pair up with a friend, a former coworker, or another senior peer, seeking connection without the layers of familial obligation. The focus shifts decisively from caregiving to community, from dependence to a chosen interdependence. For Marvin and George, life settled into a comfortable rhythm. They split the cost of groceries down the middle, took turns brewing the morning coffee, and, crucially, respected each other's need for personal space and individual routines. The initial scenes in their shared apartment were ones of quiet contentment. The gentle hum of another presence in the house, shared laughter echoing over breakfast, and the simple, profound ease of not being utterly alone. The house felt alive again. However, no shared living situation is entirely without its challenges, and compatibility, of course, matters immensely. A disagreement, small at first, began to brew. Perhaps it was differing standards of cleanliness. George, a bit more relaxed in his habits, versus Marvin, who preferred things meticulously ordered. Or maybe it was the nightly silent war over the television remote, their program preferences often clashing. The initial comfortable arrangement started to feel strained, the air occasionally thick with unspoken irritations. "Maybe we're just too old for this sort of thing," George might have muttered to himself one evening, the idea of peaceful solitude momentarily appealing. Then came a moment of unexpected vulnerability. One afternoon, George experienced a minor health wobble, a dizzy spell that left him shaken. Marvin was there in an instant, his concern genuine, his support unwavering. He helped George to a chair, fetched him water, and stayed by his side until he felt steady again. In that shared moment of concern and quiet care, the petty irritations over messy countertops or TV shows faded into insignificance. They realized their mutual reliance, not for intensive care, but for the steady presence of companionship. They talked, truly talked, that evening, setting clearer boundaries and reaffirming their commitment to making it work. It's about that steady presence, Marvin later reflected. Just knowing someone else's rhythm is nearby, that you're not invisible. They were aging on their own terms, side by side, forging a new kind of family based on friendship and mutual respect, a testament to finding community and stability in unexpected places. Marvin and George found their rhythm as peers, a comfortable cadence built on shared laughter and mutual support. Yet, sometimes, the most enriching connections, the ones that breathe an unexpected vibrancy into our later years, are those that span generations, bringing youth and experience together under one roof. The generational bridge, when youthful energy meets elder wisdom under one roof. Marvin and George found their rhythm as peers, a comfortable cadence built on shared laughter and mutual support. Yet, sometimes, the most enriching connections, the ones that breathe an unexpected vibrancy into our later years, are those that span generations, bringing youth and experience together under one roof. Could such an unlikely pairing truly work? Janice, at 82, a woman with a quick wit and a neatly kept home, decided to find out. She opened her doors not to a family member or a contemporary, but to Daniel, her grandson's 26-year-old friend. Daniel was a diligent young man, working nights while trying to save money for school, and he needed an affordable place to live. The arrangement they struck was one of mutual support. Daniel would receive significantly reduced rent in exchange for helping Janice with errands, household chores like shoveling snow in the harsh winters, and navigating the often confusing world of modern technology, like when the Wi-Fi inevitably glitched. In return, Janice, a pragmatic woman, gained the ability to remain in her own beloved home longer, with an added layer of safety and peace of mind. The initial scenes of their cohabitation highlighted the charming contrast in their lives. Daniel's late nights often intersected with Janice's early mornings. His contemporary music might drift from his room while Janice preferred the quiet of her classical records. An unspoken curiosity about each other's worlds began to bridge the generational gap. Of course, such an intergenerational arrangement wasn't without its potential for misunderstandings. There was a week when Daniel, feeling more settled, had a few friends over. Their youthful exuberance and laughter, though not intentionally disruptive, carried through the house, disturbing Janice's quiet evening. On another occasion, Janice, meaning well, offered Daniel some unsolicited advice about his career path, which he, in his youthful sensitivity, perceived as nagging. For a brief period, the generational gap felt like a chasm. This isn't working, Daniel might have thought, a sense of unease making him feel like he was constantly walking on eggshells. Janice, too, felt the strain, worrying that their experiment in mutual support was failing. The turning point came not from a grand gesture, but a small, kind act. Daniel noticed Janice struggling to open a stubborn jar one afternoon and quietly offered his assistance. This simple interaction broke the ice, leading to an open, honest conversation. They talked about their expectations, their different communication styles, and even managed to laugh about some of their contrasting habits. "He doesn't hover, and I don't nag," Janice later said with a smile. "We just exist kindly next to each other." Daniel started sharing stories about his day, and Janice, in turn, would offer snippets of wisdom gleaned from her long life. They found their rhythm, a comfortable coexistence rooted in generosity, not obligation. It was a space of learning and warmth, a fresh perspective for Janice and a stable, supportive home for Daniel. Janice and Daniel built a bridge of kindness across their generational divide. But what if the primary need isn't just for pleasant company or a helping hand with chores, but for dedicated, professional care to navigate the more challenging physical aspects that can come with advanced age? The professional hand, when expert care becomes a lifeline of dignity. Janice and Daniel built a bridge of kindness across their generational divide. But what if the primary need isn't just for pleasant company or a helping hand with chores, but for dedicated, professional care to navigate the more challenging physical aspects that can come with advanced age? For some, this means inviting a stranger with a special skill set into the most personal space of all. Edward, a fiercely independent man of 84, bristled at the mere mention of a professional caregiver. "I'm not helpless," he'd roar to his concerned children, his pride a fortress against what he perceived as an admission of defeat. Yet, everyday tasks like bathing, preparing nutritious meals, and consistently remembering his complex medication schedule were becoming increasingly overwhelming. His family, loving as they were, lived at a distance and weren't trained to handle his growing needs. Reluctantly, Edward agreed to try a live-in caregiver. Maria, a calm and capable woman in her 50s, arrived soon after. The initial scenes were tense. Edward, true to form, was gruff and resistant, his skepticism evident in every interaction. Maria, however, met his resistance with quiet professionalism and an observant eye. She didn't intrude or fuss. Instead, she provided steady, skilled support, deftly assisting with his daily assistance needs while also being a trained observer, quick to spot early signs of potential issues or ways to make his movements safer and more comfortable. Edward, missing his old independence fiercely, tested Maria at every turn, perhaps by initially refusing a particular medication or being overly critical of how she organized his kitchen. Maria remained patient but firm, calmly explaining the why behind her actions, never patronizing, always respecting his dignity. One afternoon, a small health crisis emerged. Edward became suddenly faint. Without panic, Maria handled the situation with calm competence, her skilled care potentially preventing a more serious outcome or a visit to the emergency room. Edward, witnessing her dedication and undeniable skill firsthand, felt his fortress of resistance begin to crumble. Later that week, as Maria helped him sort his medications, he found himself telling her stories of his youth, of his late wife, of his long career. And Maria listened, not as if it were a task on her checklist, but as a compassionate companion. It was then that Edward realized Maria wasn't there to take over his life, but to support it, to ensure his safety and well-being with a professional touch. "She doesn't just make sure I take my pills," he confessed to his son on the phone a couple of months later, a note of surprise in his voice. "She listens. She treats me like a person, not a checklist." For Edward, this shift in perspective meant everything. It wasn't a loss of independence, but a transformation in how independence looked, supported by skilled care and genuine human connection, offering him peace of mind. Edward discovered that professional care could be deeply human, a lifeline that preserved his dignity while ensuring his needs were met. But beyond specific roles of the dutiful child, the supportive sibling, the compassionate caregiver, lies a universal truth. The ultimate comfort often comes from someone who doesn't just meet your practical needs, but truly honors your unique, individual rhythm. The unseen harmony, finding the one who dances to your life's quiet music. Edward discovered that professional care could be deeply human, a lifeline that preserved his dignity while ensuring his needs were met. But beyond specific roles of the dutiful child, the supportive sibling, the compassionate caregiver, lies a universal truth. The ultimate comfort often comes from someone who doesn't just meet your practical needs, but truly honors your unique, individual rhythm. What does this elusive harmony look like? Joseph, a thoughtful man of 79, found his perfect housemate not in his extended family or circle of old friends, but quite unexpectedly in his neighbor's daughter, a kind woman in her early 40s. The arrangement was, on the surface, a practical one. She helped Joseph with his weekly shopping and some light cooking in exchange for a private room in his spacious home. Yet, what truly struck Joseph, what made this living situation so profoundly comforting, wasn't just the tangible help. "She knows I like breakfast quiet," he'd share with a contented sigh. Could such a simple, unspoken understanding, this intuitive respect for personal preferences, be the ultimate secret to harmonious cohabitation? This situation beautifully synthesizes the core idea that compatibility of rhythm and temperament is often paramount, irrespective of the formal relationship type. In the initial weeks, Joseph observed his new housemate with a keen, though reserved eye. He noticed her quiet presence. She never seemed to push her own agenda, never hovered unnecessarily. Joseph continued his established routines. His peaceful, solitary breakfasts with the morning paper, his afternoons spent engrossed in televised baseball games, his customary afternoon naps. Remarkably, he found these personal rhythms undisturbed. His housemate seemed to intuitively respect his need for space and his ingrained preferences, moving through the shared spaces with a gentle consideration that was deeply reassuring. There were moments, of course, when Joseph anticipated a potential clash, an intrusion into his well-ordered world. Perhaps a new routine she might introduce, or an evening when she might invite friends over. He would mentally brace himself for the familiar discomfort of having to adjust, to explain his needs, to potentially negotiate the shared territory of his home. He would observe her, waiting, almost expecting the inevitable disruption to his quiet life. But the disruption never came. She navigated her life around his known preferences with an almost invisible grace. "She doesn't talk over my baseball games," Joseph would marvel to his acquaintances. "And when I take my afternoon nap, she checks that the front door is locked, and then she just sort of disappears, respecting my quiet time." It was this consistent, unspoken respect that solidified his trust. "That's how I know I can trust her," he'd conclude. This profound harmony, he realized, didn't stem from formal titles or familial obligations. It arose purely from compatible temperaments and a mutual, unspoken respect. It was the profound comfort of feeling completely understood without the need for daily explanations or justifications. Joseph found his quiet harmony, an everyday peace woven from mutual respect and understanding. His story, and indeed all the others we've encountered, paint a vivid and compelling picture. The right living arrangement is a deeply personal equation. But with so many potential paths, so many different variables to consider, how do you even begin to choose the one that truly leads you home, to a place where you can finally, deeply exhale? Your life, your choice. Crafting the future where you truly belong. Joseph found his quiet harmony, an everyday peace woven from mutual respect and understanding. His story, and indeed all the others we've encountered, paint a vivid and compelling picture. The right living arrangement is a deeply personal equation. But with so many paths, so many different variables to consider, how do you even begin to choose the one that truly leads you home, to a place where you can finally, deeply exhale? You've journeyed with us through these diverse stories, felt the undercurrents of emotion, and witnessed the varied paths individuals have taken. Perhaps the most profound realization dawning from these experiences is this: there is no magic formula, no one-size-fits-all answer when deciding who you should live with after the age of 70. The best living arrangement, the one that truly nurtures, isn't necessarily the most obvious or traditional choice. Instead, it's the one where you feel profoundly respected, where your essential needs are met, and, crucially, where your innate sense of self is allowed to thrive. Some individuals flourish in the bustling embrace of multi-generational family homes. Others find unparalleled peace in the quiet companionship of an old, trusted friend. Still others prefer the steady, unassuming presence of someone nearby who instinctively knows when to offer help and when to gracefully step back. What truly matters isn't the official title of the person you live with, be it child, sibling, friend, or caregiver, but the intrinsic quality of the relationship you cultivate and share. Take a moment for introspection. Think deeply about your core values, your daily energy levels, your personal boundaries. Who in your life, or perhaps even someone you haven't met yet, might complement these fundamental aspects of your being, rather than consistently challenge them? The biggest surprise in this entire equation isn't about finding a specific type of person, but about discovering a specific quality of relationship, one defined by unwavering respect and a genuine understanding of your true self. Home, after all, is so much more than just four walls and a roof. It's that profound feeling of relief you get when you walk through the door, that deep sigh as you realize you can finally, truly exhale. And if, after careful consideration, no one in your current circle feels like the right fit, please do not lose hope. There are more diverse options available today than ever before. From innovative senior co-housing communities and personalized roommate matching services to in-home companion services and burgeoning intergenerational housing networks, the key is to remain open, curious, honest about what you truly need, and brave enough to ask for it. A good living arrangement after 70 isn't about surrendering your freedom. It's about discovering the kind of support that empowers you to preserve it for longer. You deserve a space that genuinely feels like yours. You deserve relationships that feel steady and true. Above all, you deserve to feel completely at home, in every enriching sense of the word. Perhaps Arthur, whom we met at the beginning of this journey, now sees his own path forward with a clearer vision, armed with the empowering knowledge that the choice, ultimately, is his to craft.